Hey, before we go in for tonight, I wanted to share something with you. Something a little special. And that is, it is the 42nd episode. Now, yeah, it's just a number, but it carries a little extra bragging. If you have never heard of the joke, 42 is supposedly the answer to everything. The meaning of life, the universe, all wrapped up into those two tiny digits. But the truth is, 42 doesn't actually mean anything unless you give it a meaning. And that's where today's little chat's going to be about. And here's the tie-in, break lines. So this is a little tricky because break lines are all about pressure. They contain the pressure, and it doesn't push you forward. But the pressure gives you control. And the control is what allows you to move forward safely, intentionally, and on purpose, on task. Many years ago, just in about my 5th year of teaching, had enough experience behind my belt, so I'm willing to be a little more daring, but also had the knowledge about teaching and kind of got an idea of what I was going to do. And I decided I needed to change things up. Sorry. Because I could teach students how to turn a wrench. I could teach them how to diagnose. I could teach them all the procedures. But that's not all that's needed to finish a job. What students really needed wasn't just technical skills. They needed leadership. They needed confidence. And they needed to learn how to step forward when things felt like too much pressure. Because the real goal wasn't fixing cars. The real goal was developing their character. If I could help a student become self-motivated, self-starting, and someone who didn't have to wait to be told what to do, I knew that was going to change their lives. And not just their lives, but the lives of those that they interact with. Their family, their future family, their co-workers. And that's truly actually why I became an educator. So I decided to push back the lessons and started to push more for projects. Project-based learning. That was a key term for a while. But see, I wasn't doing project-based learning because project-based learning means that I'm still teaching a lesson that is still there, but it's just tied to a activity. I was going beyond this. I was ready to take the big step. And one of those opportunities came about my 5th year teaching. And it was the college up north of us does a soapbox derby for their engineering program. And I reached out to them and asked them if they would be willing to invite us, a high school automotive program, to come up and compete against their engineers. And they accepted the challenge. Now, I didn't expect I would be anywhere close. They've been running this contest for many years. Unfortunately, like many other things, COVID killed it. And so they let us up. And the best part was then I presented it to my students. And we were just starting to build our leadership program through various clubs. But I presented it to my auto kids. And I was like, hey, we have this opportunity. Would any of you be interested? And we had some that stepped up. And the captain, she was a remarkable student that I had. And she didn't even hesitate. She jumped up. Yeah, let's do this. So she got her and a few of the other of her friends and built a really remarkable go-kart, more or less. It was still a soapbox derby, so no power, out of a wheelbarrow that looked like a tea bucket, Ford tea bucket. And it was pretty. It actually won a classification at the Nebo Welding Expo. And so it was really cool. But we would meet after school, and I would present the challenge, and then they would work. They would solve the problems. They would coordinate. They would figure out what was needed. And then they would do the resources that was needed to go get the items and not rely on a supply chain of teacher buy parts. And there was so much laughter, so much play, so much learning that it actually became contagious. We started building another project at the same time. We started building a demolition derby minivan. And then we started doing other projects. We started having open shop where students could bring in their own vehicles. And every one of those tasks was self-learning at the prime. Not project-based learning, not lessons, self-learning. We have this problem, we're going to fix it. How do I find the information? And they got to it. And that was amazing. The shop truly felt alive. And it was not because I was in charge. It was because the students were there. And they were working. And then here's how the brake line comes in. We're going to wrap this up. Brake pressure doesn't move cars forward. That's not its job. Brake pressure controls. It helps the momentum that is going forward to be under control. So when speed increases, it's there to protect us so we don't go crashing. When things get chaotic, we can apply the brakes and get narrowed in so that we can move faster on the next step because we're in control. Because you can't get faster when you're out of control. And leadership works the same way. The captain, our student, she could feel the pressure. She felt the responsibilities, the expectations, and the time constraints. But that pressure didn't stop her on this project. It gave her control. It sharpened her decisions, and it focused her actions and her interactions with her team. Now, without the brake pressure, speed is dangerous. Without responsibility, growth is reckless. And here's the part I want you to learn. Pressure isn't the enemy. Avoiding the pressure is. If you keep dodging responsibility, if you keep waiting for the perfect moment, like many of these videos are not the perfect moment. If you keep hoping growth will just happen, it won't. Growth requires engagement. Leadership requires action. And progress requires you to step forward. You don't drift into a meaning of life. You build one. So I ask you today, where in life do you feel there is a little less control, a little less pressure? And find that spot and tap those brakes to get yourself back in track, back following that blue line down the salt so you can set a better record. Thank you. You're not alone out there. God loves you. I love you. Until we ride again.